Hang on a second.
Finance Committee meeting. It's March 14th.
We're not starting the meeting.
Not ready?
We're live.
Good evening. We still have light out, and it's Thursday, March 14th, 2024, and we're here meeting with the Finance Committee. And if we can take a roll call, Linda Stone.
Ed Tate, School Board.
Tracy Osecki, School Board.
Anthony Devlin, Director of Special Services.
Nicole Khan, School Board.
Bob Hickey, School Board.
Andrea Mangold, Director of Communications.
Matt Ferguson, Director of Information Technology.
Ann Horner, School Board.
Tony Rapp, Director of Business Administration.
Andy Sanko, Superintendent.
Nicole Crawford, Director of Elementary Education.
Joe Hidalgo, School Board.
Zeta Pais, School Board.
Okay, and
Mike Roosevelt.
Mr. Roosevelt.
Mr. Roosevelt, are you there?
Will be joining us shortly.
Okay, he'll let us know if he arrives. In the meantime, I think Mr. Rapp is going to take it away, right?
Thank you, Ms. Stone. So today for the Finance Committee meeting, we're going to start with the agenda. The first item, we're going to talk about some preliminaries on financing full-day kindergarten, a discussion on free breakfast discussion and the change in the school code regarding that, a discussion on PennBid, which is a third-party vendor we'd like to start using for bids, to approve the Bucks IU Speech Program Agreement, to approve various software renewals, and to reject the bids for videography services, for graduation videography services. The first item on the agenda then is the financing full-day kindergarten. So, this is a very early look, a first look at financing full-day kindergarten. Just to begin with, since we don't have all the specifics, we're going to start with some assumptions. The first assumption is that this will begin in the 25-26 school year. That is basically the first time when we think we could get it started, the first period where we could get it started. So we're, just making that assumption. Right now, with the number of additional rooms we would need, it projects hiring 17 new kindergarten teachers. We do have, there's some discussion going on about specials right now. Right now, the kindergarten students have 2 specials, library and music, and the other students in the school, in the elementary schools, have 5 specials. We haven't changed, because we don't know where that's going to end up. We're assuming that only 2 specials for the kindergarten for the purpose of this exercise. We've estimated the 25-26 expenditure for each new teacher is $84,592. The 24-25, in 24-25, a 1% real estate tax increase is worth $1,767,450. And then 24-25, a 1% increase in millage for the average CRSD assessed value of $45,967 is $63. So if taxes went up 1% in 24-25, that would be $63 to the average assessed value. Again, all assumptions are based on preliminary data and may change as more data becomes available. And as of right now, for these calculations, the 23-24 millage is what we're using, which is 137.1566. Any questions on this slide?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay. So the assumptions for the millage, the taxes at 1%, that's an estimate, right? Because before it was, you have like some of the homestead sections and stuff like that, so it's just the ballpark, 1.7, because I think we've used 1.5, but it's growing, obviously.
Well, the homestead, I'm sorry, the homestead doesn't really factor in because we just take that same amount off.
Okay,
So, the 1% tax increase as of right now, that is probably the most, that's based on the end of year assessment, that's probably the most accurate number that's.
based on last year.
Based on the assessment as it is right now.
Okay, so there is no, it's pretty concrete.
Yes.
Okay, that's good, that's all.
That's it? Any more questions? No?
So the first thing is cost of teacher. So if the total cost of teachers, kindergarten teachers, based on assumptions is 1,400,000, that's 17 teachers at 84,592. That's based on assumptions is $1,438,064. In the 24-25 budget, that would require a millage increase of 0.81%. I would propose that if we were doing this for 25-26, that we would increase the millage in 24-25 by half that amount, or 0.41 millage in 24-25, and which would be, for the average homeowner, they would have a 0.41% of $63 would be their increase. Then we would follow that up with the amount we need to begin in 25-26 millage of the remaining amount that we would need, but that would be less than 4.1% due to the multiplicative effect of tax increases. And again, I want to draw attention to, there is no change in specials in this financing plan. So this is how I would recommend that we do a measured increase in taxes, for some, to spread out the increase over the two budget cycles as we prepare for full day kindergarten. Yes, Ms. Stone.
So, does that mean that that's less than 1%? So what an average family would then see half of $63?
0.41% of $63, the average home.
It's $25.83, I just about.
One thing, so we've put together a preliminary estimate on the cost of transportation. Right now, we're estimating that the cost of the midday runs for half-day kindergarten, we have to take the kindergarten kids, the morning kids home, and then bring the afternoon kids in. So those are 2 extra bus runs that we have to run to all the elementary schools. Right now, that we're projecting that would cost in 25-26 $1,977,853. In 25-26, we just based on the first grade numbers, which was in part of Nicole's presentation, where we and also the presentation last week, where we look at how many additional runs we would need. But don't forget, we have buses that are running now that have room on them. So we will need to add some buses, but not as many as we're running on the midday run. So the estimated decrease in transportation is $483,530, just because we will be running less buses on midday than we would be in the morning and the afternoon. Fewer buses. And again, these are early estimates and may change as more data becomes available. Excuse me.
Hang on a second.
Question? Any questions?
I have a question.
Yes, Nikki Khan.
Thank you. So I guess I'm a little confused by the estimated cost of the runs. So in the projected 2025-26 midday runs, based upon the first, what we know of currently would be $1,977,853,
Yes.
correct? Then the full day is let's say 1.5. Then the estimated decrease in transportation costs for full day, you're saying decrease, so where am I taking the savings of $483 off the top? $530?
Yes.
Okay. So that was savings that we're gonna receive if we move to full
Yeah,
day?
it will
That's what I
cost less.
thought, but it was just hard to
Transportation
follow.
for full-day kindergarten
Right.
should cost less than transportation for half.
Okay, thank you.
Because we have to run all the buses without any room on them every
Thank
day.
I just, appreciate the clarity.
And then Stacy? Oh,
I'm sorry, Yoda?
yes. So I had not thought about it. Thank you for if you're considering that analysis, I did not think that we're gonna save almost $500,000 by not having the midday runs of transportation. So this is like a little bonus in the whole pie, right? Yeah.
Matt Adams put that together, so he.
So it's not credit for you then.
What's that? Well, I want to give credit to Matt Adams, the manager of transportation. He took the time to put all this together for me. We went over it and it makes sense to me, so I think it's, this is a good estimate. Again, it might be a little more, it might be a little less depending on long-term plans. Okay. Financing full-day kindergarten, some other costs associated with full-day kindergarten, desks, minor reservations, and student materials are just a few of the things that we need. I know one of the things is all the kindergarten students have cubbies, so if we're going to be converting classrooms over to kindergarten classrooms, we're going to have to install those. We're talking about bathrooms and that, but we have some minor renovations within the school buildings to accommodate it, and also we'd have to buy more small desks, those cute little desks, and the materials that we need. We know what our curriculum is, but we would still need to make more purchases for that. So once we are able to determine all these costs, which we are not close to doing, how do we pay for it? And this is what I would propose to pay for this would be at the end of 23-24, this current year, there will be $7,664,000 of general fund balance committed to future educational initiatives. For purposes of a future educational initiative, I would consider full-day kindergarten to be that kind of initiative. So I would recommend that we use a portion of this committed fund balance for the non-personnel costs. It's very important that any costs that are ongoing, we would budget for as part of the, as part of the 25-26 budget. But anything that's a one-time cost, I feel that this is an appropriate use of this committed fund balance. And in the future, we can always, put the money back with excess funds that we have. For this purpose, I feel like this is one of the reasons why we have these, this type of purpose, I should say. Not that it was, so I would recommend using a portion of this fund. So that's my information on full-day kindergarten.
Any questions? Bob?
Thank you for all that information, especially the one with the bus, it was nice to know that there's some savings that are possible. However, I'm assuming that this is going to become, you're going to present this at a future date, all the other personnel costs that are associated with full-day K.
When things are fleshed out more.
Okay. Yeah, because at the minimum, we're looking at a $45 million investment here.
What?
So,
$45 million?
for full-day K.
What?
You said the teacher's cost is 1.438 million, correct?
Yes.
For 1 year?
Yes.
And how long does the teacher teach for?
For 17.
That's for 17 teachers.
30.
He's saying he's projecting out.
Right, I'm projecting out, it's a $45 million
40 years.
investment. It's 17 teachers at a minimum for 30 years. That's $45 million, or,
What?
right, or no? I'm just asking. It is or is not. Maybe,
In 30 years, I mean.
Correct, over the course of 30 years, we're making a
Over the
45,
cost of the
yeah,
entire time
Right.
that there's full day kindergarten.
right. So it's a $45 million investment for a 30-year hiring 17 teachers at roughly $100,000 each.
We don't sit and look at a budget over 40 years. You're looking at the budget that's upcoming. Just like we're not looking at how much taxes are we collecting over the next 40 years.
Well, you do have to look at
Property
taxes. I
values.
mean, this is only factoring in kindergarten. I'll ask another question,
Right.
and I don't want to have to go to an executive session, but just give me just if you can answer the date. When is the teacher's contract up and the other ones?
The teacher's contract ends at the end of next school year.
Just,
In Crespa.
And Crespa ends the end of the following school year.
I tried to tell you.
And those are published, that's published.
just looking into other factors that are going to be considered into this, as from a financial point of view.
What if we just continue with the presentation as it's laid out? I mean, you're not asking specific questions about, we're talking about, right here, we're talking now about financing fixed cost issues, fixed cost items. How would we pay for that? So,
I believe this is the last slide before we move on to our next subject. So I didn't want to go into the next topic and then come back to full day kindergarten.
No, this is it.
I just had to,
so did you have a specific question though?
my question was,
Yeah.
over the course of this is, if my numbers are correct, this is a $45 million correct investment, yes or no,
Over 30 years, yes.
okay, thank you.
Yes. Do you have something else to say? Tracy?
Yeah, that's quite a scary way to look at it. That is, I guess, one way to look at it, but I think there's and the numbers are gonna change, and as you said, Mr. App, the numbers are gonna go up once we talk about additional staffing. This is only the actual kindergarten teachers. There's gonna be more teachers, aides, all those things in the classroom. So the numbers are gonna change. That's a very drastic view of it, but these are not the final numbers.
Yoda?
Yeah, so it's an arbitrary number of 40 years. Well, maybe in the same way, we can estimate the value of education that Cancer provides over 40 years, and what would that number be? It'd be in billions probably, because we have $270 million over 40 years. So, and then you can see what percent is that of the total, and why is it the 40 years? That's in accounting, is that a number that we use? I mean, we can use the net present value, but I don't know if 40 years is what did you pick up? If you pick 1 year or 100 years. I mean, we can make up numbers if we want to, but it doesn't make any sense to me from a financial perspective to make that kind of comparison, because we are not talking about a 40-year investment. You're talking about the investment to offer this in the next year or two, and that is very different from inflating numbers just to scare people. Is there in accounting something that says you have to use 40 years?
No, there's nothing,
I mean, I'm not.
nothing related to 40 years.
Yeah. I mean, I have finance background. I've never seen the 40 years as number to select.
Yes, Joe?
Unless you want to go.
Oh, sorry. Dan?
I think it's a great start, because we just had a meeting with Ms. Crawford, and she gave us approximately how many we needed with our facilities, with our education. This is a start. And we don't know where we're gonna be yet. This is just a start to give a gauge. If I'm not understanding this correctly, tell me if I'm wrong. To give a gauge if this is where we need to be going, right? There's a lot more other factors of staffing that still go into this and fixed costs that will go into this, as well as other things that will come up that will probably go into this. So this is just the first stage, is this my understanding? Right?
Yeah.
But we're gonna continue, okay.
Yes,
I
it
just
is.
wanna make sure that we're, okay. Thank you, that helps a lot to begin for a figure, yeah.
Now,
Joe,
thank you. So when I think of this conversation, I think of like when we would build a building and people would be comparing, and then I don't think anybody on the board would do this, but they would add in the finance for the costs, you know, when you say how much, to really show you how much the actual cost over 30-some years. That's kind of the, what I'm seeing, that what it seems like it's kind of the same thing. I don't look at it as a 30-year investment. Every year is a different class. And if it was $40 million for 30 years, that would be a great investment. It's going to be way more than that because you have to add in all the rest of the costs. But comment about the slides that I have from this, I've never seen. You know, I've been asking for full-day kindergarten since I got on here, and I know now that there's lots of competing demands or whatever. There's competing issues. So, but when I see what he said, it made it seem like, well, from a finance standpoint, it seems like, why? How easy is this? And it's not going to be that easy. But this is pretty promising first step to show that you get a small tax increase. We're not just raising the taxes also by 0.4 and 0.4. We're earmarking a tax increase that's probably going to be more than that. So, and again, and I don't like when people say, and it's me personally, I hate to say, I even said the hate word, I was just joking, that when you say, oh, you know, it's the cost of a cup of coffee, I can give you this insurance, you know, and that's the old sales tactic, and I just think that they just did it again in Central Bucks. And the thing is when you add the money for every tax increase along with, if you just got your Northampton Township taxes, you sure as heck seen a 25% tax increase, the people on fixed income. I'm not saying this is a bad thing, but when you say it's $60, well, that's $60, but it's compounded in the next year, it's compounded next year with the additional ones. And just like on the opposite side, when we lose a tax increase, that's money we don't have for future spending. So every business director that I've ever spoke to has always recommended you want to raise your taxes as much as you can. You know, that's what they want because it makes their job a lot easier. And our job, at least for a fiscally responsible person, wants to keep the taxes at a very manageable minimum, expectable increase, and then work within those parameters. So yeah, I'm all for full-day kindergarten. I think it's a great idea. And then you have to compare that with all the other competing needs that we have. And we have a lot of them. So I'm happy we're going down this path. There's a chance if we choose kindergarten, there's going to be other things we're not going to be able to do. But again, you can't look at it over 30 years. It's just, the slides that was presented tonight makes it look like it's a slam dunk. And by itself, it's a slam dunk, but when you look at everything else that the teachers want, that the administration wants, that the community wants, we have to weigh it. Because as I said, I think, why don't we have full-day kindergarten? And then I start listening, and then I was going to leave it there. And we're all going to continue to do so. Thank you for a board that was able to get this far down the road, and we'll see where it takes us.
I don't want to give off the impression. First, I don't want to give off the impression that this is that I'm saying this is a slam dunk.
I would say that based on the slides. So.
But this is, this would be in conjunction with, a tax increase to balance next year's budget. And on top of that, we do have lots of competing interests. We know that we do. We have, just one of the things that we talked about in administration is we have two tracks right now that we're looking at. One is full-day kindergarten. and one is buildings and programming and what is best for the students of this district. You know, what we want to provide an excellent education. So we're looking at, like, you know, those interests and competing interests and just trying to figure out, we want to go down this track of full-day kindergarten. And I think we feel that the full-day kindergarten track, getting that started is its own track, okay? But then we also have the building track. And as we build up programs and that we have to look at buildings and continuing renovations and whatever other capacity the district might need, that at some point those two tracks are gonna combine, or at least cross over. So, you know, we're working on that at the same time, concurrently, not in competition with each other, but, you know, you might see it that way. But we need to make sure that we're taking all those competing interests in hand when we're doing this. So I'm presenting what full-day kindergarten would cost, what I believe would cost right now if we don't change specials, to begin it in 25, 26. Obviously, there's more numbers that have to come out. I said last week that the statements regarding the amounts that I'm giving you regarding teachers is not final. I don't know what the amount is of, you know, what insurance is going to cost us. I'm actually hoping that number goes down or at least stays the same, but we're using last year's numbers. But I just want to make it clear that this is competing with a tax increase about, you know, talk about a 0.41% tax increase. It's also talking about, you know, a tax increase to balance the budget for next year, and any other things that we might want to add. And, you know, we're discussing as part of the budget, you know, what positions we need to improve the district. And again, our number one priority is, as an administration, and I know it's yours as well, is what's best for kids. So, you know, we have all those competing things. So there are other places where we want to, you know, spend money as well. And you know, and then we look at our Act 1 index and where we're at this year and where I talked about where that's going to be. I think this board needs to consider the fact that if we need money like this year compared to the next several years, what we'd be able to raise if we needed, you know, to keep things high quality for our students, that what we need to do that, and looking at what we can do this year versus what we can do over what they're saying we'll probably be able to do over the next 3 years. So I just want to make that point that, you know, we're very much aware of all the competing interests and not saying that anything here is easy or, and that's not, I'm not directing that at you specifically, but you raised my concern that people could see it that way.
Yeah, good to know.
So, and, you know, you've all got some tough decisions to make, so.
Yeah, and we tasked you, the administration, you financially, you know, Tony with education and Nicole, you know, Andy, we tasked you with investigating this. So this is what we want, you know, you're presenting us with the numbers that we requested, and that's all that we can ask for. We're not looking for your opinion or whatever on it. We're just looking for information, and the more information that we have, the better served we're going to be when we need to decide, you know, in which way to go or to pivot, and all those things that you said factor into it. So, I mean, you know, if you, I don't want to say, because I don't expect you to make a recommendation. All you're doing is presenting data, and then it's for us to decide as a group of 9, you know, where to head and what to do, and, you know, ultimately the decision becomes ours, and, you know, we're just, and like I said, thankfully, every week we come in here, we're getting valuable information. You know, and the more information we have, the better off we're going to be. So, like I said, I appreciate all the effort of all the administration and all the work that they've done, because I know this is, you guys have put a lot of effort and time into this, you know, and every time you're putting in effort and time into this, we're not educating, you know, our current students, you know, or future students, or whatever the case may be. So I said, you know, thank you for all your efforts.
Well, thank you. I am sort of making recommendations as far as I would like to see a phased in tax increase for full-day kindergarten rather than just all in that year. And I'm recommending that we would use the education initiative budget to pay for the one-time cost. So that, and I feel that's just a recommendation from, probably the best recommendation best practice that I would say to implement this.
I know, I can't say. Nikki?
Thank you. I mean, I'm just gonna kind of reiterate the last time we had the education committee meeting. And this is one piece of that puzzle that we're continuing to get. So tonight we got a little bit more into the inside of what's gonna happen when it's ultimately time to make that decision. The administration has been fully cooperative, and you guys took the ball rolling and went off with it and did everything that we have asked for, which I am very appreciative of. I do know that you are not teaching students currently in the classroom, so this is all what you're supposed to be doing. Doing the things that basically move us forward into having the academic excellence that we expect in Council Rock, and to keep us competitive and moving into the 21st century of educating all our students. So I appreciate that, and thank you. I look forward to the next presentation.
Ed, Tate, please. Go ahead.
This is really valuable, Mr. Rapp. I think, as Ms. Horner said, this is a starting point. We're going to get a lot more information. And we're also going to be looking at the educational costs and benefits as well. And I like the pleasant surprise about transportation. I don't think any of us would have guessed that. And that helps. Mr. Ago brought up competing interests. That's my biggest concern, is that, we can't do everything we want to do in terms of new educational initiatives at any given time, so we have to make choices. And this is one choice that will be an expensive one. And it's one that'll require a lot more information. The bottom line for me is, what I've seen so far is that it is not cost prohibitive. I mean, it's not the big price tag that some might have imagined, including myself. I thought we would be looking at bigger dollar amounts. It's still a lot of money, but I'm encouraged with what I've seen so far. So I'd say let's stay at it.
Joe?
Sure. So, Mr. Rapp, Tony. Yeah, so we're looking at the one-time expenditures.
Yes.
And you have the money in the educational reserve for a portion of it. I'm not going to ask you for the portion, but as you said, 1.7 million, is that just for the teachers? So there's got to be so many more costs to this than just that, in my opinion. I can't imagine that 1.7 million is, with that tax increase, is just for teacher salary. I don't think it gets into any of the other costs. If we are going to increase specials or student aids or whatever it is, people from CRESPA are not included if we need additional staff.
We would need for that. No.
And really importantly, we're going to need a lot of them, I would think, if we're going to focus on, because there was an idea, here's an idea to throw at. If we don't get full day kindergarten for everybody, I've heard chatter about full day kindergarten for people who present needs in an IEP or something like that.
Yes, so currently we do provide full-day kindergarten for for all of our low incidence classes.
Okay. Could is there some school districts that bump it up a little more to maybe typical kids that have a regular IEP, not a low incident? If you know what I mean.
I hear what you're,
They've been.
I don't know of anybody who does
And the school
anything.
districts do that.
I haven't looked into that. The ones that I know of don't do that. Just to offer,
Well, for kids, basically, they could apply saying, my kid's gonna have problems in half-day kindergarten, or there's some way that they're already identifying these children, but they're not to the level that they need some kind of help, that we would be able to help those people.
The districts I've seen and learned about, it was very similar to how we do things here, as Mr. Devlin shared. There are some districts that did a very small pilot. That's the only difference I've seen, where there's certain classrooms that are chosen just as a sample group, but not because of any special needs.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I could not hear Dr. Devlin's or Mr. Devlin's response. Could you please repeat? I could not hear your response when you said.
I just mentioned that we already have a full-day program for our students in what we call our low-incidence classrooms. I also said that I know of the districts that I know of don't offer any more special education services for students who may have any other type of special needs. Like if you said speech. Yeah, so if a student is speech only, I don't know of any district that would offer a full day or time to come in just to receive speech services.
Speech and emotional, actually emotional would be pretty tough in kindergarten, I would think. I don't know how that works. But, okay, so we're already doing that. For some reason, I thought we were, okay. So that, I guess, as you said, there's more discussions to be had, right? So there's no reason to really dig into additional costs because this isn't going to be the full, this is just for the salaries of the teachers.
Yes, and.
And it might be double for everything else.
Laying out how I would recommend that we increase taxes for salaries, so that's what we should budget for. Pay for the upfront costs.
No, it's not.
We have over almost $7.7 million in that fund. I don't foresee that those costs using all of that money. So,
Right.
Unless there's a lot of unforeseen things, but I don't foresee that.
But all in, this number is not close to all in?
I would say this number is the biggest section that we have.
Okay.
I had asked. So just to clarify, you would say we offer a full program. You mean we offer full-day kindergarten for special education? Is that what?
For students who are in our life skills program or in our autistic support program, our multiple disability support program, we offer that full day. So they can take advantage of the general education kindergarten, and then we extend their day so they can get those special related services.
How many students
I'm
are in there
sorry,
right now?
isn't that fair? Like, we only give it to a subset of the students and not everybody? Why would that be appropriate? I mean, if
So
they're all students.
students who come to us through the early intervention process, so
Right.
students who are already eligible for special education services, parents can opt for those early intervention services back at through the intermediate unit or whatever. We have such a robust program, in order to transition them in, we do that earlier, in kindergarten. So they don't have to take advantage of those IU services. They can start their neighborhood school and start the relationships with their teachers and so forth.
And how are they accommodated?
And that's not uncommon. That is not uncommon.
How are they accommodated on a full day when there are like 2 half-day classes? They're in separate rooms?
So we include students in the general education program as much as we can while they're engaged and it's meaningful. If they need some support or need to be instructed or re-instructed, they can be pulled back into the autistic support program. If they have those significant physical therapy needs, occupational therapy needs, speech needs, or what have you, we have those services at that second half or the first half of the day.
And just, Stephen, in the standard, how many students are we talking about?
I don't know. I wouldn't be fair to me to even venture a guess, and I do apologize. I don't know.
We can easily get that information.
We'll get you that information.
But that's relatively small number.
It will be a small number. Yes.
Tracy?
I just wanted to clarify on Joe's point, Mr. Rapp, just because I want to make sure I understand. The 1.7 is for 17 classroom teachers. When you go into a kindergarten classroom, Mrs. Crawford, there isn't just one teacher in there, right?
There could be one teacher, there could be a special education teacher, there could be an instructional assistant. So we, as you know.
Those
there will
extras
be-
are
There will
not,
be additional staff. As Mr. Rapp shared, we wanted to just have a starting point to give a picture. As he shared, this is one big portion, but we still have to do an analysis of these rooms and then how many additional staff we'll need, not even counting special areas, just looking
Right.
at instructional assistants, special education, and then beyond that.
that's what I wanted to
Cafeteria,
understand, because I know we
recess.
talked about like STEAM isn't, or specials are not included, adding those, but also not included now is additional aides or whoever else is in the
This is
classroom.
just the classroom,
Okay.
just to
That's
have
what
that
I
one
understood.
snapshot of information, but we're going to continue to do that analysis and get that information.
And presumably, those additional support people, you know, let's say that instead of one classroom teacher, there's, you know, 2 on average in every classroom, it's not gonna double necessarily the cost, right? Because the salaries aren't as high.
But there's not necessarily 2 per classroom too. I
Okay.
want to share that it does depend on the strengths and needs of students in those classrooms.
Okay, so sometimes there is just one.
Yes.
Okay.
And so Mr. Devlin and myself and some other important key folks in this process will take a look at, you know, the staffing that will be needed, and we'll start with, you know, the students' needs and such, and then go from there.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? Are we moving on to our next topic?
Free breakfast discussion. So in the 22 and 23 and 23-24 school years, this actually goes back to COVID, but these were specifically provided for in those years when in COVID everything was free, but in the 23 and 24 school years, there was a PA budget provided for supplemental state funding for all sponsors who participate in the federal school breakfast program to provide free breakfast to all students regardless of need. And there was also supplemental state funding for all sponsors who participate in the federal national school lunch program to provide free lunch to all students who qualify for lunch at a reduced price. So for our students, based on need in the elementary and middle schools, we receive federal money to pay for students who qualify for a free lunch and a free breakfast. And then we also receive federal money for students who qualify for a reduced lunch and a reduced breakfast. The federal government, the state government, and that's about all of the meal except for 40 cents. So a reduced price lunch would be about 40 cents, I believe, a reduced price. Breakfast was 30 cents. Prior to COVID, Council Rock was not participating in the breakfast program. It was added during COVID, and then was kept because of the state supplementing the program. What we did was, so the federal government pays their portion, and then for breakfast, state government is providing that 40 cents for all the reduced students, and the full cost of the meal for all the paid students. So the free, reduced, and paid. So every student in elementary and middle school who want a free breakfast get a free breakfast for free. And the district doesn't pay for that. It's partially federal and partially state. As well, the reduced price lunch students, the state is picking up that 40 cent that they would normally pay and is paying that for them. So there's only basically free and paid in those schools for lunch. Just as an aside, in 23-24, we began providing free breakfast and the free, so we've always provided the federal portion of the meals in the high schools where we are not on the program, but we've always provided free and reduced to those students who qualify for lunch. In beginning in 23-24, we added breakfast to that, free breakfast to that for all those students, and the free lunch for reduced students as part of the payment. And last year, it was paid for out of, we have been paying for that out of the general fund for the free and reduced lunches. When we have breakfast now, we're going to be paying for that out of the high school earnings, for lack of a better term, so that it's not coming out of the general fund. And so, and the amount of high school students who get free breakfast is minimal, because a lot of them like the food that they buy from the student groups that sell breakfast in the morning. So there's not a whole lot of participation at the high school level. But beside that, in February 2024, PDE issued a letter to all the sponsors that that as of December 13th, 2023, the provisions where the state is providing the free breakfast and the free meals to reduced lunch students is now in the school code and is considered a permanent part of the school code and would need legislation to have that removed from the school code. So for the foreseeable future, we our reduced students will get, our reduced lunch students will get free lunch, and as long as we continue in the breakfast program, all our students will get free breakfast. So I wanted to bring that to your attention, that is now law. That's not something, last year, I don't know if, for those of you that were on the board at the time, I believe I spoke about the fact that they're saying that they're probably gonna do it, but we don't have a budget yet, so should we participate or should we not participate? If they don't do it and we participate, we could be on the hook for all that money, but they did participate and it was now law. So we don't have to worry about that moving forward. So as long as we participate in those programs, for the elementary and middle schools, we'll have free breakfast and free lunch, free and reduced students will get free lunch.
Sounds good. Yes, Ed?
This is great. I mean, I think what the state has done with the school breakfast program is marvelous, and the federal support for the lunch program. And I know we're very diligent about privacy of those students who take advantage, and we try very hard to encourage participation.
The more we encourage participation, the less, I'm sorry.
No.
I said, the more we encourage participation, the less of a stigma there is for kids who get those meals.
That's a really good point. I think it's a marvelous thing. We had a significant balance in the earnings in the lunch program that we were trying to figure out how to properly allocate.
Yes.
Is that still an issue?
It's still an issue, and that's why we're doing this. So because the high schools is where most of that money was being made there.
Right.
And because the high schools are not on the program, if we separate out their revenues and expenses in our system from the elementary schools, that money can be used for non-program things. So that's considered anything related to elementary and middle school. There's no separation of where that money comes from. So that's program money. We can't give that money to kids for free and reduced. We can't do any of that. But because we've now separated out the high schools from the elementary and middle schools, we have that money now that as that comes in, we can use it to pay for the free and reduced meals that we were transferring over from the general fund in the past. So, so this is our starting point here. I'm hoping that, you know, we use some of what we have, and, you know, have to portion some of it to lunch, to the elementary and middle, and some of it to the high schools, but try to use that money for costs in the food program that we normally couldn't pay for in the food program, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Great. Thank you.
Joe? Joe? Go ahead.
Thank you. So, as far as participation is concerned, I know middle school is different than elementary school. I'd be very interested in seeing the participation. I'm thinking it might be low. I think when my school started, my son was doing it at the middle school. He stopped, and for the life of me, he said, "Oh, I won't eat, I'll go eat at school." And then I wonder if there is some kind of stigma to this whole thing, because again, if it's available to everybody, and I also think about when they get to school, they're rushing, they want to get to class. I mean, you don't want a meeting in the classroom, but I think they get a brown bag and they go. I mean, it doesn't seem like I'm happy that the state has provided this service for free. And I want the kids to take advantage of it, because I think it's a wonderful thing to get the food that you might not get time to do at home. and early in the morning, even though this might make you sleep, depends on what you get, but what are we doing? I know you talked about participation programs. What are we doing to help that, or where are we seeing where we can better the participation? What can we think outside the box?
Right now, we're at about 11% participation in those schools. That's very low. I'd rather see that number of around 50%, especially in the middle and the elementary schools. We are, you know, right now we're looking at our food service vendor. We'll either have the same one or, you know, the fair process, that RFP process that we're in the midst of going through right now. You know, we'll determine we'll recommend a vendor based on that. It's a objective process with scoring and everything. So we'll recommend, you know, make recommendations. You'll all participate in various activities once we narrow it down to a few vendors that score high. But I'd like to see, first of all, the way that the free breakfasts are set up is supposed to be set up for kids to be able to, they call it the grab and go. And this is very much encouraged by the state, the PDE, in that that kind of lessens the stigma related to, you know, getting this. So they get a bag with a fruit, a bar, and keep in mind, please, that these bars are not the same bars that you can go into a grocery store and bar. You might say Kellogg cereal bar. It is not the same nutritional content of a cereal bar you can buy at Wegmans or Giant. It's a different formulation to meet the nutritional standards of the federal government. So that's one of the ways that we try to do that, is to encourage kids to grab and go, where you just taking it, it's convenient, it's easy, you know, they can enjoy it during their break. And you know, we've talked about this at our food service advisory committee, where some of the principals said that you know, they encourage it, and or the assistant principals, they encourage it, but they don't want to leave the auditorium, and I understand that, because they don't want. But you know, but in the morning, so that's one of the ways. I'd like to see a concerted effort beginning next year, if we opt into this program again, where we, you know, there is signage and stuff like that gets put up related to this. But I'd like to see some more of that, and some more encouraging of people of students to take advantage of it. Maybe some communications home to explain what these meals are and why they're convenient. You know, and you know, some.
I wanted to do my follow-up before.
Okay.
So I appreciate that, the communication, but I wonder if it's the demographics of our population too. And so I'd like to look at, if you're saying you'd like it at 50%, I'd like to look at the schools that are hitting 50%, one thing, if there is such a thing, but also, if you're saying 11% and there's 10 elementary schools, or sorry, I keep messing that up, there's 8 elementary schools, right, whatever it is. All right, 10, okay, I always mess this up. So 10 elementary schools and 2 middle schools, so, I mean, is one doing it better than the other? But again, I think it comes to, maybe it's just demographics, you know, or, and again, selling it to say, and if there's a time or an area where people can go and socialize and eat their food real quick, but I just don't think we have the time for this, and I don't see how they can eat a whole meal in their homeroom. Or maybe they feel weird eating there, unless, you know, so it's tough.
We're at about 11% across the district, K to 12. Some of our high number schools, and I don't have the exact numbers, high number, about 200 student participation. And we've been as low as mid-20s in some of the other schools. When this program first came out, we worked with building level administrators, we worked with Chartwells, and we put systems in place because we had the same concern about students getting the food and being able to get into class and eat it. Some students, we observed that they take the grab and go bag at the elementary level. There's a snack time in each grade level. They eat it during snack. Teachers have been flexible when students bring their bag in. I mean, you know, we're calling it breakfast, the state calls it breakfast, but it is not a hot sit down and eat breakfast. It's a bar, it's a fruit, it's a drink. And our students who participate We have regulars who participate and some that I've been told that, they'll hit it 1 time a week or 2 times a week. But, and Tony will know this better than I, but we're nowhere near 50% participation at any one school or as a collective.
Some schools are better than others because of demographics. But, there's, that's the biggest thing that we have going is the convenience.
Which is good that we have it. Whatever we want for it, it's great. And I'm happy the state did that, I guess.
You talked about communication and doing that, and I think that would probably help, especially now, to know again for all of the parents, to communicate that again, because they either forgot about it, or the kids don't go back and tell them.
Mhm.
I think there's a lot of factors in that.
Yeah, and get it out to the parents. And I could see that there's probably some that think, it's not a healthy breakfast, it's not nutritious.
Or they don't know, they don't know what's in it.
And, so I'd like to see us, we do send a letter out to all the families at the beginning of the year. So I'd like to, and working with whoever our food service providers.
Nikki?
Okay, thank you. I have just, I guess, a question and then a statement. My question was going to be in terms of the procedures for a free and reduced lunch, what does that look like? For a family to apply for a free and reduced lunch?
There's
breakfast.
two paths to free and reduced. One is students whose families are on certain federal programs are automatically qualified. And we get a list of those students and add them into the system, and they automatically receive free and reduced. Also, at the beginning of the year when we send out our mailing, we send out an application to all the families in the district to say, here's the application for a free and reduced lunch. Fill it in, fill it out, and if you meet the criteria and send it in, and we do get plenty of those applications. And when it comes to those applications, we do not have to verify the information that's on those applications for each application. We do have to verify a sample of them every year. That's the federal laws and what we do. So.
Is the enrollment period only allowed, let's say, at the beginning of the school year, or is it ongoing and it's available on the website?
We send it out, it's available on the website.
Okay.
We've also incorporated into if students are building up a balance, that we don't deny a meal to anyone. And we provide the regular meal up until they're $50 behind, and then we provide a special meal. And we do stop a la carte at $50 as well. But we are now sending out applications when we have to communicate with the family via letter that they're behind. So when we do that, we are now including an application with that as well, so that hopefully someone's circumstances have changed and they don't have that now they can apply, and we do try to. And I know Anthony's people
Whenever there's an issue of consistent housing or things of that nature, if somebody's displaced in any way, we reach out to them through our social workers, our secretarial staff to show them how to apply for the free lunch or reduced lunch program.
And also, I'm going to add, I'm looking at the website.
Sure.
It is not only on the opening landing page for our website, but every school has the same access to get in there to see it, so it's prominent.
Okay,
It's right there.
No, I think it's good for the public to hear, it is available, it's ongoing, you don't have to just do it at the beginning of the school year. In terms of the breakfast, I know if we have 11% participation currently in K-12, and we'd like to get to 50 at some point, and I know this is a fairly new initiative. Having an elementary student, when this came in, I've seen the students come in, they come off the bus, come in the building, walk through the cafeteria, just right through the line, grab their grab and go, and then they go off. And again, all elementary classes in our district have snacks. So I think it's also not just necessarily for breakfast, but if you're like my child, he doesn't eat till the last lunch, so they get 2 snacks. So I think it's an opportunity. And again, the communication, like Ms. Horner and Mr. Hidalgo had mentioned, needs to maybe just remind families and parents. I know the principals send home a weekly letter, and sometimes, mid-year, quarterly, they send some reminders about parking and different things and wearing a coat, something that they get familiar with doing, as a district to get some participation.
I think it's important to point out what Tony just presented is a separate and removed to some degree program from the free and reduced lunch program that takes place every year, all year, and families who are in need of that, we will always provide that to them. And as Anthony said, if parents don't know how to fill the form out, or if they come on hard times, our social workers will walk them through it. It's highly confidential. There's one person in the district that maintains that information. But that is available to our families who are in need at any time. This program that Tony just spoke about is accessible by every one of our 10,500 plus students.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Parents, I don't think, since it's relatively new, they don't, if we remembered it, I remembered it from last year because I saw it. I forgot and I didn't see it this year until you said something. So it's just something, or even when the Chartwells, we get a monthly calendar for the lunches, like a reminder on there. Breakfast is included. It might have been there at one point, but just a reminder. Parents need lots of reminders.
And as far as the applications go, if they qualify for the lunch application, they qualify for the free, say they qualify for free lunch, they qualify for free breakfast. So that only makes a difference in how much federal money we get versus how much state money we get.
But everyone gets breakfast.
But everyone,
There we go.
it's either
Thank
paid
you.
for by the president.
Thank you.
Bob?
I know what the breakfast is, but do you find, or would you know if there's a lot of waste involved with this program?
I would imagine there's some amount of waste. I know some of the schools have established share tables where rather than throwing things away that they don't want, they are supposed to leave them on the table, and then other people who can take them home.
So when this was introduced, what Chartwells did with us as administration, we made some early projections, and then based on the participation rate, that's how many breakfasts were prepared by school. And that's where I mentioned to you that I'm in the ballpark of some of our schools. We had about 200 participants, and in some schools 25. So when Chartwell's folks would come in to prepare, they know if they're going to school A, they need to prepare 25 to 30 versus 200, and, 210 lunches, breakfast. So there is a risk of waste, as Tony said, but they have a nice job of managing and monitoring the amount of food that they need per location to provide to the students.
Yeah, I didn't know, I know you can't do it with perishables, because I always feel bad when I hear people throwing out food and there's so many people who need it. But I didn't know if if these non-perishables, these bars they're coming in every day for these people who aren't using them. So now we have this big stockpile, and if we did, is there any way that we could donate what we have to some organization or whatever that could possibly benefit from it?
Chartwells monitors it, and they do regular reordering, so we don't have a warehouse somewhere that we have these bars and apples and cartons of milk stockpile. They do it on a regular basis, multiple times a week, if I remember correctly. And again, it's based on the participation rate at each school.
I apologize. I thought, it didn't even occur to me that you were talking about waste of what we're offering, because I know that we basically order based on how much is usually taken. I thought you were referring to waste from kids taking it and not eating something.
You're always
You're
your
never
kid
gonna-
picks up the bag and chucks it in the, or doesn't eat it or whatever. No, I just meant a stockpile, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, and then most of it is, the fruit is the one that is probably the most perishable part of it.
Right.
The rest of it can be, saved for the next day. Most of it, even the fruit, depending on the age of the fruit.
Yoda?
So is it possible with the parents' approval to just provide it to every kid? So, you can just give it to them as they come in, if it's a little bag, or you can put it on their desk. If the parent agrees, of course, then they can keep it for later as a snack, like.
Actually, the answer to that question is we cannot do that. We have what's called, in the federal program, there's what's called offer versus serve. And we are our program are all offer programs, so we're allowed to offer a meal, we're not allowed to just serve a meal. And that's implemented to reduce waste, so that we're not just giving people food that gets wasted. We serve food, they have the option to take it or not, and if they don't take it, then they don't.
So in that case, why don't we survey the parents or send them questions and ask them if they would like that for their child?
Well, I think that's what we're planning on, getting more communication out to the parents.
I mean, almost like to make a commitment.
What's that?
Ask them to make a commitment instead of like, oh, this is offered, but you don't have to do anything about it. It's like, try to sell it, Tony. Just try to give people more information, but also make it easier for them to access it. Because sometimes
It's already pretty easy, it's available right when they come into school, and they come off the bus and come in, and they can go get it right away.
not to keep the parents, for the parents to be aware.
And there's also some issues with, not issues, but some parents make their children breakfast and prefer to make their child a hot breakfast, and that's,
Tony, there's some parents that make a hot breakfast and then the child proceeds to get the breakfast like my son did for a very long time. He was tickled pink over the free breakfast, but then we realized, my husband and I, that he was double dipping, so to speak. He was not alone. There are many out there, so it's just another variable to it.
And that's what I was thinking about, Nicole, when we first started this. We had some students that were trying to go back 2, 3, 4 times to get a couple bags of the grab and go. So
we do record that they've gotten the breakfast, but we have to do that so we can reimburse.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you. Next.
Thank you, Ms. Stone. Pen bid discussion. So there is this online sealed bid platform for public agencies. It's run through it's formed to save time and decrease costs in the bidding process. It will be no cost to the district, so I'm just bringing this to your attention that we'd like to try this. And it's used by other districts in Bucks County, and our actual supervisor of facilities plant has implemented it at another school district when she worked there. So we do have someone that has experience with it, and we'd like to test the water with a few smaller bids before we begin using it in earnest. And so basically what it is we sign up for this service, and when we have a bid, we administer all the posting of our bid, and we put our specifications for the bidders and all the information they are able to. It will reach everyone that's registered as a bidder in Pennsylvania for that area that we're looking for bidders on. Then they submit their bids electronically, and we can't access their bids until the day that we have the actual opening. And the good thing about it is, one of the better things about it is, it cuts down on the amount of work that we have to do. We do everything online. We have templates that we can use. And it also reduces the amount that we have to pay for advertising, because of doing this, we're able to say that instead of putting all the things that we've been putting in the big newspaper advertisements, and we have to do it in 2 newspapers, and we've been doing like the Philadelphia Inquirer, we're into thousands of dollars for a 3-week posting, like close to $8,000 for a 3-day posting, what we're required to do. And we try to stay away from that, but sometimes we have to. But so we're looking into doing this. We're going to just start with a few smaller bids see how it works out and see if we like it. And make sure that even though our supervisor of facilities plan is familiar with it, we want to make sure that our purchasing staff is able to use it and we're getting a decent amount of bidders on it. But I'd like to just let you know that we're going to try this.
Okay, go ahead, Nikki.
Just had a quick question regarding this. How does this factor into the responsible contractor law?
They're registered, they have to go through a process of registering with this system and there's feedback from other entities that have used them. Plus there's a little bit of additional cost in that they have to pay for. So the reason this is free for us is because they have to pay the bid. They don't pay us, they pay the service.
So they're paying,
And
Penn bid to be a bidder.
yes,
But then they're also, like you're saying, they're part of the responsible contract
Yeah.
law and follow those
yes,
regulations and rules and procedures.
yes.
Okay, thank you.
I forgot what I was going to ask. Oh, is this something that would require us to vote on, for the board to vote, or is
There's
it?
no cost involved, so I don't think you have to vote on it.
All right, so is
But
there
if you
anyone
want to
that
tell me
had
to vote
any-
against it if they don't use it, then
So is there anyone here that would object to the,
I still have a question, I didn't even get a chance to ask a question.
oh, go ahead,
Okay.
Joe.
So I was gonna ask, what's the fee? I know who pays it now, it's the bidder pays the fee. Do they pay the fee whether they get the bid or not? And what is the percentage, or what's the cost?
they pay a fee to belong.
So it's a fee to belong.
So that's how they,
And what's the fee?
I don't know what the
I would
fee
like
is.
to know, because at the end of the day, and are we tied to this bid service, or you,
No.
okay?
We-
Because as I said, at the end of the day, it's a business model. And if I'm paying for a service, like a credit card would charge you a service fee, they push that onto the customer by it costing, services cost more money. So when we say we're not paying for this service, if you're only getting bids from people who are paying for the service, most likely, if they're doing their money the right way, they're gonna roll those costs into the bid, which I already think school districts get charged absolutely ridiculous amounts of money through collective bargaining or whatever it's called, collective bargaining through, what is it called, prevailing wage? It's just like we pay way more than the private industry because of some of these things, and it ends up, it's not our money, right? The taxpayers pay it. A lot of people have so much, when I came onto this board, I've gotten a little numb to it, but I would think to myself, how can we spend people's money like this? This is insane that we're paying so much for these buildings and everything else that we pay. It's like a military pays, $100,000 for a part for a plane, and that wouldn't cost you that to the private sector. There's just, all this system is completely out of whack. And the government just basically pays a lot to the people who work with the government, more than they probably should, because it's a government. So my point of all that
I'll get more
rant
information on
is that, the point of my rant is that, I say fine, I mean, there's no problem, but I'd be weary of it until I know more about this Penn bid thing, only because, as I said, somebody's paying for it. It's like using union versus non-union.
And I understand what you're saying, but I definitely understand what you're saying.
I'm glad you do.
But, no,
I don't.
But I would just add that it is kind of still a race to the bottom, and that they're trying to underbid each other, so that's
That's a good point.
That's why
Okay. Well, as I said, I'll give it a shot. There's no strings attached. I mean, I'm not looking to approve anything. I don't think you're asking for approval, but we're gonna take a look and you report back to us.
I just want to try it and see. But I will provide you with more information regarding how they charge the.
Thank you, Mr.
Ann?
Yeah, and if there's no cost to the district, and if you try it, and you don't like it, and something happens, and there's hopefully no cost to get out of it?
There's no cost to us at all.
Okay.
We
And
can,
then,
we can look at, so we have a bid that we think is great for this system, and we use this system for it. We have a bid that we think is not great for the system, we can do it the old way. Yeah,
okay.
so we can
And then
we can have
is-
confirmed bids, one on this system and one not on this system, for different bids, of course, but.
And is this the way bidders are going? That you'll get more bids than going to the newspaper?
Yes, and there's not a whole lot of traction we get from the newspapers, and we get, most of the time, we get bidders by sending them out to the usual suspects. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but, you know, more vendors, the more bids there are, the better.
More competition.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
Any other questions? Huh?
Just a quick one, I just thought of it. Question.
Sorry.
Bless you.
You said, I think, didn't you say that when we put out bids that we have to put them out to certain, like, so many advertisements, so many?
We have to advertise in 2 newspapers for 3 consecutive weeks, and that's not every day. So we did it every Thursday for 3 weeks.
So if we're part of this Penn bid, does that supersede that where we no longer have to do that?
We still have to do it, but the ads are much smaller. Instead of listing all the different things.
Okay, so we'll have smaller ads, we'll just save on ad space.
Yes, so say, you know, for these things, please see our bid on that bid.
So you're still gonna save a ton of money from advertising, because in newspapers and whatnot. Okay, good. Thanks.
Anyone else? No? Next topic.
Bucks IU Speech Language Review Program Agreement. We're requesting approval for the Bucks County Intermediate Unit to perform an evaluation of our speech program. The BCIU has experience reviewing speech programs at other districts, including monthly reviews for another Bucks County district. The BCIU has previously reviewed other programs for the district, our English Language Learners Program, our math program, and our gifted program. The cost is, for this evaluation is not to exceed $6,780, I believe it's $113 per hour for.
Limited for 60 hours.
Limited for 60 hours. So, Anthony, who knows much more about this than I do, will.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you. So, when I came into the position, I noticed that there were some inconsistencies among our speech, the provision of speech at the different levels and so forth. I've worked closely with the intermediate unit, and I think it would be a great idea for us to have a PQR program quality review of our speech services so that we can have a uniformed approach to make sure that we have a consistent speech program throughout our district K through up to age 22. And I can answer any questions if anybody has any more questions about it. Oh, why does it cost money is my first question. So I have with me here is our program and services budget that was approved, I believe, maybe last month. And the program and services budget is based on educational initiatives, so to speak, instructional themes and so forth. And most of these instructional themes, blended literacy, UDL, STEAM, etc., arts and so forth, are determined by the intermediate unit probably annually, semi-annually, or so forth. They did not include special education in this program and services. We do contracted services for special education services, typically, and everybody here knows the IU does their own tuition programs, but they also offer supervisory support. They offer related services support. So in this instance, I would like to use a portion of what they offer in terms of their supervisory support, not for a supervisor, but for somebody to come in, again, third party, neutral, come out and look at our speech program to see what we can do to make it more robust and more meaningful for our students K-12.
Joe, sorry.
Yeah, so who's doing the speech program evaluation for Bucks County IU? Do you know a particular doctor doing it?
Gina Meisler and Amy Franstick, who are their supervisors of their related services.
Related services.
And speech services.
Okay.
related services, speech services. Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Ms. Khan had a question, I think.
Any other, Nikki?
What's the, like, the scope of the work, timeline, and then with the results, will the board get to see what the findings are, the results, next steps, I
yeah,
presume?
Definitely, I can share with you the next step. So the scope of the work is that they're going to come in and they're going to do some observations. They're going to conduct surveys with the speech therapists to see what their practices are, to see how much they're lining up with ASHA, which is the American Speech Language Hearing Association. Make sure that, again, that they're consistent. And then they are going to offer to me some things that we change, whether it be the listing of the frequency and duration in the IEPs, caseload size, practices such as articulation plans versus IEPs, and so forth. But yes, I will definitely come back and provide you that feedback.
And just to follow up,
I'm sorry.
are parents that, let's say, parents of children that are receiving some sort of speech program in our district, are they going to be notified of the fact that there's a survey, or are they going to be able to participate in the survey? I think, oftentimes parents have a different perspective.
So right now the survey is just for our speech language pathologists.
Okay. Thank you.
But I'll share with the team that I'm always welcome and I'm always open for any phone calls. If parents ever have any questions about the related services their children are receiving, please call me directly, reach out to my office, and I would love to speak to them about what concerns they may have.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, Tracy.
So, just to piggyback on Nikki's question for a second, I don't know how these evaluations generally work, but is it possible that there could be a parent component? Like, could this include a email that goes out to parents receiving these services and say, are you satisfied with what your child is receiving?
Well, so right now, I just spoke to Ms. Francic and Ms. Meisler, and they're going to provide a survey, and I'm going to work with them. Is it possible? Yes, it's possible. It could be what we call facilitated self-assessment, where we send out surveys to families. But right now, I don't have, I did not want to go deep into speaking to them what it would entail without first coming to the board and making sure that's something I can go forward with.
And I don't think the general overview of this is take a look at ourselves internally on our practices as it relates to our department with speech pathologists and how we're delivering the number of touches per student, the caseload, as Anthony said, to look at our own practice. And this is very akin to the EL audit we just had done by the Bucks County Intermediate Unit. The IU came in and did a program quality review on our English learner program. We're still waiting the final report from them, but it's the same concept. We want to look internally at our practices and see how we can get better and more efficient.
Jess?
Awesome.
Ed?
I think it's just that this is a marvelous idea, assessing our own programs, and it's good to have a third party do it. So thank you.
Can I just ask, is this an ad hoc, is this a one-time deal and then paid all at once? Or is it
What's billed,
periodic?
periodically billed until, but it will never exceed the 6,780.
Right.
And
Usually, I'm sorry, Tony, correct me if I'm wrong, what would happen is that there's a final reconciliation at the end of the year, and that's when the invoicing, and that's when usually when the IU would bill us.
Yes. Yeah, because the money we brought them, the money they owe us.
Yes, Bob?
The question I have, and I think you said it, but I thought the most important word that you said, this is going to be so we are consistent in our practices as well, so we don't have somebody doing one thing here and one thing there?
Definitely, yes.
And as a follow-up, are they going to be looking at or recommending best practices?
Yeah, oh, yes. So definitely consistency, best practices as they are aligned with ASHA, which is the organization that oversees these services. Yes and yes. Consistency, K through age 22, regardless of the building. Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And any other questions then?
Before I move on to the next agenda item, can we go back to Penn Bid for a second? I
Yes.
have an answer to your
Thank you.
question. So I was incorrect. The vendors, only the vendor who is awarded the contract pays anything. And if it's a fixed fee contract, meaning, this is exactly how much it's going to cost, they're charged 1/3 of 1% of the contract value. And if it's a term contract, they are charged 1/6 of 1% of the contract value. There's a minimum award of $100 and a maximum of $5,000. And bidders who are not awarded a contract pay nothing. Which I think is good because that takes that out of the
Great
bidding process.
incentive.
Another point that I didn't think about is the fact that it is actually less expensive for them to go through this system than to do a paper bid and have to make all the copies and send it via Federal Express so that it's right here on time. And most of the stuff that they have is already in the system. We just have to apply it to our bid.
Well, it's fine. I like the cap, $5,000, and knowing the business model makes me feel a lot more comfortable giving it a shot.
So, and the bids come to us electronically?
Yes.
Okay.
And we cannot open them until the bidding's closed. So, which I like as a former auditor, I like the safety of the internal control. So the next item is to approve various software renewals. So this is for those of you that have been here, this is a change in the way that we're doing business. We have a lot of software contracts with companies that we've been basically, not say we, but they're not being brought to the board every year for renewal. It really should be. It's a contract. You're the only entity that can enter into a contract. Some of the philosophy on it is that you approve the bills every month, so you approve the payments. But I prefer that you get a chance to review these contracts. They're all in board docs. As the business administrator, I'm making this change to bring these contracts to your attention so that you can actually approve these contracts. There's 5 contracts that we're bringing this month. So this is going to be something that's probably going to be pretty regular, at least around this time of the year. CUDA software is a high school math software that we've been using since 2011. And that's for a 3-year term, $1,480 a year. Lexia is a special education literacy program. We started using it in 2022, a 1-year program for $15,960. InfoBlocks is a IT networking security. We've been using it since 2012, $30,938 a year for a 1-year contract. Rapid7 is another cybersecurity platform. We've been using it since 2022. It's a 1-year contract for $3,740. And the O'Reilly Learning Platform, which we've been using since 2021, again, a 1-year contract, $1,194 per year, for the year.
So my first question is, who actually reviews the software and says, okay, we want to approve this for another year, and gives you that information? I assume that comes back from whoever's using the program.
Whoever's using the program. So I know, obviously, number 3 and 4 are reviewed, like Matt looks at, we'll look at those and recommend that we renew the contract. The math department, Anthony's department brought Lexia to my attention, and the learning platform, I believe that was from one of the elementary schools. It's mine. Oh, that is yours. I'm sorry. Oh, that's right. That's for training for Matt's staff. That's right. That's not in the schools. I'm sorry.
You train your staff.
Hey, Nicole wants to pay for it.
Ann, did you have a question?
So for the 4 of them, you could probably ask for yourself, both of you, you feel comfortable with these programs to continue on?
Yes. So Lexi is supplemental. This is not the only one, and it is, it depends on student need. I am comfortable with Lexia, how we're using it now. We may use it more in the future. We may use it less in the future, depending on student use and different variables. But it is reviewed. I review this with the supervisors annually.
And Anthony, that also ties into the letters training and the letter.
And this also taught, yes, so thank you, Dr. Stanko. So we've been partnering with Lexia since '22, but we are also increasing because Lexia now is also a part of our letters training, which we are kicking off tomorrow, as a matter of fact. And we're having a series of 4 professional developments to help our teachers better understand literacy, reading and spelling, so they have and can build their pedagogical toolbox to assist our students better with structured reading and phonemic awareness.
So one last question. So do you get written approval? There's email, something in writing that
Yes.
they've been approved
Yes, there's,
before?
well, I'd like to have this on consent, but there are contracts in the, in your board docs, that specifically talk about what these are. And you can read them and, make recommendations for.
But we have a track that Matt approved his.
That's right. Yeah, yes.
That's all I know.
Yeah, I have purchase requisitions waiting for me to move to purchase order once these are approved.
Just so Matt can't say, I didn't want that.
No, Matt had Michelle enter in a purchase rec. I have the purchase rec, and once it's approved, I'll turn it into a purchase order.
Thank you. Anyone else have questions? So this will be something that everyone's going to look at. Are we going to consent
Yes.
these items at the meeting? Okay.
Would you want to put the speech language program review agreement on?
Yes, right.
missed that.
D and
It's item D.
D, yeah.
the Speech program, put that on consent.
Can we put that on consent as well? Not any objections? No? Okay.
Last agenda item, we're asking we went out to bid for graduation videography services. We received 3 bids. If you look at the bids, the prices are wildly different. $10,000, $62,000, $91,000. The lowest bidder came back and said they missed part of the specifications. So our options are to go with the next lowest bidder or throw them out and let them rebid. I think at this point, considering the sizable differences, it would be wise to rebid this program. So we're asking for you to reject the bids, and we will have this completed in time for graduation.
So it'll be on the agenda in April for approval.
And we will not
We've already
object.
reissued the bid, so we're getting into the documents now, so we haven't opened yet. But the way the process works, you have to reject this one first before we can approve the next one. So on the agenda in March, you'll reject it, and then in April, hopefully we'll have adequate proposals to approve.
So we will vote no.
Yes.
Well, actually, you'll vote to
Yes to
reject.
reject.
That's what I was
Okay.
Well, I would appreciate it.
You'll have this done in time for graduation. Yes.
He said that just in case.
Well, I knew it would be a question, so I made sure to put it on there.
Yes, don't worry, it'll be done. Any other questions or any other comments?
Could this be
Ben?
consent as well?
Excuse me?
Could this go on consent as well?
Can it be? It'll be presented, okay. So we won't have to say yes to reject. As long as it's written correct, as long as it says
As long as
reject.
it's written.
Upcoming agenda items. My life right now, the budget, so we'll have more information and work on that next month. And we're working on, getting that tightened up, so that and obviously full-day kindergarten, continued discussion, there'll be more approvals for software contracts and that type of thing as well. So that's all I have.
Well,
That's a
then,
lot.
Thank you. That was a lot.
So I think we will adjourn.
I
And,
so move.
and we will see you all next Thursday.